Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 2021-2022 annual meeting for Lakeview Academy. We have almost the entire Board of Trustees here with us, and it appears that we have over 104 participants, and that number is growing. So thanks everybody for sharing their Monday night with us and for the enthusiastic turnout. Just a quick bit of housekeeping. This first Zoom call will be solely related to the annual meeting, during which Kirsty will have some introductory remarks. Alan Nivens will cover the financial highlights for the school, and then we will share with you the three candidates to join the Board of Trustees for the upcoming school year. Take your vote from all of the participants, and then we'll open it up for any other Q&A for any other matters that anyone has. Kirsty will walk you through the logistics of how that will work through the technical aspects, and then we'll close this meeting. Everyone can log off of this Zoom, and then there's an entirely new Zoom call dedicated to the town hall meeting. So with that, Kirsty, why don't you go ahead and open the meeting with some introductory comments, and then we'll hand it off to Alan for the financial review.
Sure. Well, welcome everyone to the 2021 annual meeting. And I'm delighted that we're having the meeting on the first day of school. It's been a wonderful day today. Great seeing all the kids back and seeing some parents as well at convocation, which is one of those lovely Lakeview traditions. So we're starting the year strong. There's much to look forward to this year. Many of the opportunities that we had last year to have in-person activities, we're also going to be able to do this year. And you may have seen some of the construction work as you drove in this morning, the new practice field. Enrollment is growing. So we're thrilled with the direction that things are going, and I'm delighted that we are here at the annual meeting to move things forward again. Just some housekeeping though, for those of you who are at home, when it comes to the voting for the new trustees, you should have on your Zoom panel it's either right at the bottom or it might be in your participant list, a raise hand. And that feature will be used, as Jay will explain, as we get towards the vote. So that's it. I'm going to share my the screen now.
And Kirsty, actually, if you're on an iPad, it falls under, in the upper right corner, it falls under the More category. There's a drop down that says More, and you'll see raise hand as the very bottom of the drop down. So for those of you using an iPad at home, that's where you'll find.
Okay. And actually, just a second piece of housekeeping. I put in the chat box for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to register for the town hall meeting, which is at 6:30. You can click on that link, and we will check those registration lists and make sure that you are approved to and cleared to join the meeting at 6:30. So I'll let me share my screen now, and I'll hand it over to.
And Kirsty, after we've taken the votes for the trustees, one thing, we'll have a brief Q&A if anyone has any questions, for example, financial questions, anything like that. Explain to them how they can ask questions and how we'll handle those. Oh,
sure, yeah. So there's a Q&A function. Again, at the bottom of your the panel, the Zoom panel, it says literally says Q&A, and you can type your questions into that box, and we will read them out. And depending on the number of questions, obviously we can either address them in this meeting or we can address them in the next.
All right. With that, why don't we, if you could share those slides for the annual meeting, and Alan. We're going to let you go first and cover the financial section. And I know there's only several bullets, but maybe if you could just talk even more broadly about the financial strength of the school. Thanks.
You bet. Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Kirsty. My name is Alan Nivens, and my wife is Meg Nivens. We have two daughters, both at Lakeview. I have a Sarah, who's a senior, and Annie, who's a sophomore. So it's going to be a fun year without a doubt. Like Jay just said, I've only got one slide, but I would like to elaborate on each of these three bullets. We always try to find a good balance between giving enough financial meat at this meeting, but without too much detail. It's important for you guys to know the strength of the school because we very much view it as a business, and it is a business. So for you guys to invest not only with your tuition dollars, but with your kids, it's important that you guys know the school's in a very sound financial position. So there again, it's just these 3 bullets, but I'm going to elaborate on each of them somewhat quickly. The top one shows that we've reduced the debt by $2.5 million over the last 11 years. That was $300,000 this most recent year alone. But the color behind those numbers are that only leaves us with just a little bit over $3 million in long-term debt. There are basically 3 components of that debt. The largest component of that debt comes from the bonds from 2000, which predates, I'm almost certain, everyone on the administration and the board and most all of us. But it was the construction for a lot of the facilities and buildings that are on the school today. So obviously very important. The other 2 items that are smaller dollar amounts are the athletic complex and the middle school. So some smaller remaining debts on each of those 2 facilities. Also, of course, that we couldn't do without. So that's where our debt comes from. On the other side of the balance sheet, we have $24 million on book value and assets. So our equity in the school, our equity in the company, since we're a nonprofit, we'll call it net assets, is over $16 million. So if you want to say we have equity of $16 million and we have long-term debt of $3 million, I feel very good about that leverage. And like I said last year, I can easily report on this with such smile and glee because I don't have anything to do with it. Alan and Kirsty and all the others that preceded me in this position got us in the good position where we are. So other 2 remarks on that are that we were cash flow positive last year and arguably was a very challenging year financially and otherwise, and we budget to be cash flow positive this year. Last year, when we started the school year, we had 520 students on this day, and today we start the school year with 556 students. So it's a significant increase, and that shows a lot of strength. So I'm excited about that very much, and I know Alan and the other administrators are as well. It's important also to note the efficient management of tuition dollars. That's on your second bullet point there. Everybody that was here last year, which was probably most of us, knows there were no personnel cut last year. There were no programs cut last year. Same experience your kids and others have had in previous years. We had last year, notwithstanding there again, a very challenging environment. So we're very proud that we're able to continue to provide the quality of education and experience that we were going to have anyway. A few of the things we did, we actually reduced the potential shortfall by 1/3. We also funded $90,000 in cleaning supplies that I promise you were never ever in a previous budget. We had invested in 10 smart projectors, and you've seen the practice field out front on the corner for various athletic teams and other school activities, and then the sidewalk there in front of the student center that will enable our kids to get in front of the campus safely. And if you've seen your kids walking there before coming to your car, I guarantee every parent has sweated a little bit before that sidewalk was there, hoping their kids didn't get run over. I don't think we ever had an incident, thanks to Tony and many others, but it was always a scary time. So we didn't just survive last year, we actually thrived. And this is probably as much capital investment on the campus as I've seen in recent times. So I'm excited about that as well. And then the third bullet point is the successful annual fund and auction. This is not insignificant. We had budgeted $225,000 for the Lion Fund, the annual fund, which is kind of an interchangeable term. We ended up with $302,000, so 34% over budget. And then the auction raised right around $150,000, of course, virtually. And so those 2 programs aren't just critical to the success of the school, but the intangible there is that it shows how much parent and community support we got and how many people are out there behind this school, not just in tuition dollars, but in other intangible type things that are very important to our budget and our success. And one last kind of off script thing that I wanted to mention, encourage you guys to consider, is the value of this school. And when Alan shares the tax return with me and others, if it's not an inch thick, it's close to it. And when we have a set of financial statements that we give to our bank and other vendors that require it, there are a lot of numbers in there. And a kind of a dorky guy like me likes that kind of stuff and enjoys that. But a number you can't find in there is the value. And that's unique to all of us. So, and we all have different reasons for that. I bet a lot of them are the same, but some of them are unique to every family on this call and in our school. You know, there are any number of things I could point to that might be why you find value here. There are other private schools in our area. There are other day schools and boarding schools and public schools, and we all choose to come here for certain reasons. But our kids came from Gainesville, and we came in elementary school, and they were fifth generation students there on one side and fourth generation students there on the other side. We were all in on that program. We still to this day love that program, support the program, and had no problems there. We didn't leave that school. We came to this school. And for us to leave that kind of tradition behind and come to something new was really something that was a challenge for us, but it's worth the value for us. And I could go on, but it's specific to us. But I encourage you to think about what's the value to you and your family, because as I've said to many on this call, our house will go back to the bank before I don't pay our Lakeview tuition. I very sincerely mean that. It's that valuable to us. So I encourage you at the beginning of the year to think about why you find value and love the school that much. So that's something that I just saw in my heart and wanted to say. But with that, Jay, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Alan. One, I guess, quick postscript to that financial section, since we are at the beginning of a sort of a new decade here in 2021 and beyond. Alan mentioned the $16 million of net equity for the school. That's ultimately the value of the entire institution. The school just had its 50th birthday. The first 40 years, it took 40 years to grow $10 million of value. In the last 10 years, we've added $6 million of value. So you think about that. It took 40 years to grow the first 10, or 40 years to grow the first 10 million. And in the last 10 years, we grew another 6 million. And that 6 million is really a function of three things, because the school is not meant to be a profit-seeking business on a P&L basis. It came from the middle school that we raised funds for from the community. It came from the athletic facility that we also raised funds from the community. And it came from the endowment growing by several $1 million. So the confluence of those three big drivers, the two new facilities that enhance the value of the school and the endowment, took us from 10 million to 16 million, all while having tuition rate increases under 3% and giving compelling raises to the faculty. And I think that speaks to the prudent management of the school over the last 10 years. Alan Tucker's office deserves a tremendous amount of credit for that. So I just want everybody to have some context. As we enter this new chapter, the school has enormous financial momentum, and it has the strongest financial strength in the school's 50 years. And that's an incredible platform to build off of. So with that, we're going to, I guess I'll pause there and just, does anyone have any financial questions before we turn to the introduction of the new trustee candidates? I'll pause for 20 seconds to see if any questions come in, Kirsty. Okay, if there's no finance questions, Kirsty, if you could pull up the slide related to the new trustee candidates. Thank you. So this is the officer list for I'll start with the trustee nominations for a new 3-year term. This year, there's a committee on trustees that's comprised of about 5 board members and also an outside member who has to have served on the board in the past, but it's to provide some additional objectivity. So that committee on trustees solicits recommendations from existing board members and parents and members of the community. And this year, Trey Wood headed up that committee, and we got 18 recommendations, which was a record. Certainly in the 7 years that I've been on the board, that's the most I've ever seen. So it was a very robust year for considering candidates. These are the 3 candidates that we decided to recommend. Mark Causey is a parent of children at Lakeview. He played basketball at Duke University and also attended University of North Georgia. And he's in the medical field here in the area. Mohawk Dave, who you'll hear from later, is the Director of Emergency Operations at Northeast Georgia Health Systems, and also is a parent of 2 children at Lakeview. And Maggie Griffin, who runs a home design business in Gainesville, and is also the parent of several children at Lakeview. Those are the 3 candidates. So I'll pause to see if there's any questions about these 3 candidates. Okay, and if there's no questions, what we're going to do now is we're going to take a vote. And the easiest way to do this, since we're in a sort of a challenge Zoom capacity, is typically we do this in the cafeteria. But if there's any dissenters or people that would like to withhold a vote, and you can do so anonymously by just waving your hand, and Kirsty will see it. But if there's anyone who does not want to vote in favor of these three new nominations for the upcoming school year for the Board of Trustees to serve a 3-year term, please do so now. Okay, Kirsty, if you wouldn't mind, if you could pull up the slide showing the list of current Board of Trustee members. It's the final slide in the deck, I believe. There we are. Okay, this is a list of the current Board of Trustees. Obviously, with those 3 new members, that would take us to 21. That is the maximum number of trustees that we're allowed to have. Typically, there are 3 classes, and so we have a constantly revolving door. So it allows us to solicit and identify new board members from the community. And one of the things we're trying to do is Lakeview grows and touches more, I guess, contiguous counties, whether it's the Brazelton area or north of Gainesville. We're trying to have representatives from those areas as well to make sure that we, as the school enrollment grows, to make sure that we're representative of the broader area. So hopefully you see that in some of these names as we go forward. The last thing I'll do, Kirsty, if you could go back to the officers for the upcoming year. This is a list of the officers for the upcoming school year. I'll be chair for 1 more year, and then I roll off the board. Alan Nivens is chair-elect. He is serving his first term on the board. He will be rolling on as chairman for the next school year. He'll be chairman for 2 years. Trey Wood is the treasurer. He's been on the board. This is his 3rd term on the board. And so he knows the financials really well. And Sheetal Mangalat is serving her final 2 years, and she's the secretary. So the 4 of us make up what's called the executive committee that meets with Kirsty and reviews her performance and just keeps updated on things throughout the year and reports to the board. So if there's that's pretty much it for all the administrative matters. If there's any other questions, I'm going to pause here and we'll open it up for about a minute for Q&A and see if anybody has any questions. Kirsty, any questions coming through?
Yeah, we have one question actually, although it's we'd have to ask the candidates this, and perhaps they could share their vision. We can send this out in a document or attachment. It was a question about the candidates and their vision for Lakeview. So maybe that's something that we can do from the new trustees, and that's something they would be willing to share with the community.
Yeah. Because the person who asked the question didn't withhold the vote, right? They just wanted to get that information.
Correct. Yeah, there were no votes
Okay.
withheld. And then there's another question here, which actually these are actually questions more for another occasion. Are there any additional plans for further growth of facilities? And given the time crunch that we're on to make sure that we're able to start the town hall on time, I would say that, again, I can respond separately to that individual, I think, if that's okay. And I'm happy to share that information. Also, there's always updates on the website and in the Raw newsletter too.
Yeah, I think in the interest of time, why don't you, I see who's asked that question, why don't you just respond directly to them? Because I think a lot of people are really looking forward to the town hall. And so in the interest of making sure everyone who's ready for that, we move on to that. I see no other questions except for the one about voting, which we can respond to her about that. That's just a logistical question. So
yeah,
with that, we're going to close this meeting. And thanks to, it looks like we had 131 participants. So thanks to everyone for joining and following the school. Thanks for being part of the Lakeview family. As you could tell from Alan Nivens' comments earlier, we all feel tremendous excitement about not only this upcoming school year, but about the next decade. And Lakeview's in a very strong place. And so we want to thank everybody for the enthusiasm, and we're looking forward to a great year. So please log off now and log into the town hall. Thanks
very much.